welcome back to the shed. So today I thought I'd do a little tour of my little shed. Let's go. So I built this shed about 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. It used to be my observatory for my telescopes and that, but now I've turned it into my engine shed. That's the chimney for the little log burner in there. Anyway, let's go inside. Welcome to my little piece of heaven. Well, I guess the best place to start is well, with the good old bandsaw. I picked this bandsaw up well, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago. I think I paid about 80 quid, something like that, and it's been a real proper workhorse. I mean, all my projects sort of start on the bandsaw. As you know, you got to start cutting up some stock to be able to make anything. So yeah, what an absolute fabulous machine. Up here I've got my, well, just some storage, some of these really useful boxes, which are, well, really useful, and well, storage for my sort of screws. So starting at the top, like the M2, M3, M4, and it sort of goes, you know, all the way down, all my sort of cap-head screws, etc, etc. Yeah, really good sort of storage racks these are. These were from oh, what's it called, the electronics place, Maplin's, that was it. And yeah, they're really good. Good storage racks for, well, that's all my gears and stuff like that. I mean, you know, I do write on them. I put these little coloured dots on so they kind of reference what they're for. These are all my kind of electronic stuff and things like that. So yeah, and then down below, well, the bandsaw itself didn't come on a stand. So, well, this was being thrown out. It's an old, you know, dressing table. So, you know, I try and utilise everything that I can. Down here we've got, well, this is a aluminium smelting furnace that I started building, but still haven't got around to finishing it. Same with the Honda 200 engine there. Still haven't got around to, well, even starting that, to be honest. The rest of the bikes down in a shed down there. Hopefully not going too rusty. But yeah, so there's the bandsaw. Then, well, moving on to the next part of my shed is my good old pillar drill. This is a Sealy pillar drill, yeah. And that's been a really, really good drill, actually. Really useful. It's got a good height on it, good range. Up here is just, again, some more storage. This is my little fire extinguisher. Nice vintage fire extinguisher. Hopefully I mean, it does work. I've tested it, but hopefully I'll never have to use it. And then, of course, up here I've got some vices. That's just a bit of a crappy vice that I use for holding, for welding and stuff. This is just an engineer's vice. Got another one of those there. I sort of pick those up from car boots and stuff, you know what it's like. I've got a nice tilting vice there. It's not very accurate, but I mean, it, you know, gets you out of trouble if you need it. This is the, oops, got that stuck. This is the vice I tend to use, you know, most of the time on the old drill press. And I've also got a nice sort of fully ground vice, which I use a lot on the mill, actually, as well, inside the actual vice on the mill. Down here I've got my drills, Imperial and metric set, full sets of drills. There's an old chuck there, which I obviously use as well on the pillar drill, you know, for holding round stuff and stuff like that. Coming down below, well, that's where I keep my drills, my hand wipes. I've got some metal storage down here, so like aluminium offcuts. What we got, steel offcuts, brass offcuts, etc, etc. I like to keep all my stuff because, well, you just never quite know when you're going to need it. So, same with there, loads of sort of steel, bit of rebar, stuff like that. Again, below there, a bit more steel, and then sort of aluminium. aluminium plate, you know, which obviously I use a lot on my engines and stuff like that. Another drawer of aluminium down there, and if I can get up, I'll just come back to the old bandsaw dressing table again. That's just got metal storage, you know, down there. There's my vacuum and one of my tripods that I use when I'm filming. So yeah, moving on. Oh, I missed that little got a little press there with a die set at the bottom. Comes in use occasionally, not very often, but you know. Okay, moving on to the, well, I call this kind of my dirty bench. So I do all my I've got a record number 3 vice there. It's got some sort of fibre jaws in at the minute, but I've got sort of other jaws. I've got these jaws which are sort of leather coated. I built these myself from a set of jaws that I had, and then I've got some just aluminium jaws as well, depending on what I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, that's been you know, it's a great vice really, to be honest. Had it for years. So over here I've got some more little storage drawers for my taps and stuff like that, various taps, BA and model engineering, MA taps, left hand threads. You know, you collect all this stuff over the years, don't you? And then you know, a few more taps and dies, a bit of Loctite, etc. And then I've got some woodworking sort of bits hanging on the wall there, a couple of ratchet tap wrenches which can be really useful. And then over here I got fed up of having to keep changing, you know, dies in die stocks and stuff. And I mean, I use sort of basically, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, well, not 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 and 10 mostly. So I bought a load of cheap die stocks, which are actually quite good quality actually in the end. I was surprised for how cheap they were. So I've got one for each, and they're all loaded up ready for, you know, when I use them either on the lathe or, you know, just in the vice sort of thing. And well, more storage again. So it's sort of my those are my hand countersinks. Start at the bottom actually. There's my spanners. They're on kind of magnetic racks, and well, I've got quite a few of them. And then my smaller spanners under there. And I've got my pliers and some files and stuff at the back. I've got my metric Allen keys, T-handled Allen keys, and a set of Imperial screwdrivers, of course, and hammers, etc. And then, well, coming down below the bench, I've got more metal storage. I've got my hacksaws here, and then I've got some brass and aluminium, steel, etc., etc. Brass bar. I've got an old motor and another old motor, starter motor down there. And then again, I've got some more sort of racks, you know, with all my little tiny files, diamond files, stuff like that. I mean, the idea is that anything I use sort of regular, I sort of I keep out on the benches, and or you know, they've all got their own place, so I know where everything goes. So because I do get in a mess, stuff comes out, I don't put it away, and before you know it, the bench is covered in stuff. But at least when I do have a good tidy up, I know I can put everything sort of you know, back in its place, and I know next time when I come to look for it, it'll always be there again. So then moving over to the next sort of part, a bit more metal storage again. This is where I keep like all my phosphor bronze and you know, small brass offcuts, all the files that I regularly use. Again, once I say, like I said before, they're all kind of available and easy. They've got me you know, the jaws for my chucks, and I keep my chucks on the top here. So I've got my little it's 4-inch 4-jaw independent. I've got a 4-inch 4-jaw self-centering scroll chuck, which is really useful actually for you know, turning square stock and stuff like that. I've got my 6-jaw at the back there, and then under here I've got my 4-jaw 6-inch independent. You know, so that's where I keep my chucks. A couple of bits and bobs up here, a couple of saws, etc. And then again, come on to more sort of storage really. I use these you know, the cardboard sort of postal tubes that you get. They're really quite handy actually, and I I keep all my sort of smaller stock, hex stock, brass stock, you know, whatever really, anything I don't want to throw away, which is everything, I end up keeping. So you can see there's quite a lot of stuff up there, some copper pipe and etc, etc. A couple of boxes like my silver steel, so I've got my metric silver steel, my imperial silver steel, that's just cable tie, so just a few boxes. And I've got my little cupboard here, good old YouTube Machinists Facebook group, great group that is, run by John, I believe. If you're not a member of that, you should join. And then in here, what do I keep in here? It's just a few of my lathe tools and bits and bobs and stuff like that. So, oops. And then, well, just more storage. Box of Allen keys and a set of wrenches there. Just a few cutting oils and stuff like that. And then working along the top, I keep all my sort of my spray paints and stuff on these racks up here. So anything like that I sort of, well, I don't use regular, but I use it fairly regular, I suppose, once I've got a job done. But yeah, coming down to the lathe, I guess. This is the Myford ML7. I've had this about 5-6 years now, and it's been a beautiful machine, actually, a really great machine. I wouldn't swap it for the world, I've got to be honest. And well, it's just a great machine, what can I say? I think anyone who owns a Myford will totally agree with me. So anyway, these are my, well, a little rack there where I keep my chuck keys. Moving along, I've got my 3 spanners here, which they all fit the lathe, you know, the various parts of the lathe, the gib screws, etc. So they're all there, handy when I need it. I'll just move this out the way. This is just a little screen that I use, you know, it's difficult to do with one hand. Oop. So like if I'm turning brass or anything, I can just use that as a screen to so I don't get showered in brass, etc. But yeah, it's a bit dirty actually, so probably could do with a good old clean. But yeah, behind there I've got these little, I've got loads of these actually, which are like little spacer blocks. And I've seen there was a company who were making that tool for you know, so you can space out when you want to hold something right in the end of the chuck, but you need to get it square. Well, you know, I sort of I use these. I mean, I make them as I need them. So if I need a certain diameter, I'll make it. But yeah, like I say, those they just slot in. The chuck's not fully open, but yeah. And then obviously you've got that. You know, that is your square edge to mount your stuff in. So anyway, I'm waffling on a bit about them. They're not really that impressive, are they? Over here I've got my some die stocks, I can't think what you call it, die holders, and these fit on that this little MT2 holder. Just take that off, that'll fit on there, and obviously go into the tail stock. So that's pretty useful. And the actual extension piece that I've got is also I also use that. And then, you know, the dies I was on about earlier, in the die stocks, you know, you can use them against that. And the reason that's long is so it'll obviously, you know, come through the gap there and give you enough space. So yeah, a few centres, revolving centres, etc. And then coming on to my kind of, well, these are just my sort of regular use tools. So, you know, what do you call them? Centre drills, a few little spanners, countersink, fishtail for setting up, you know, for threading, a couple of starter drills that I always use, and then my little clock, which I use, DTI. Obviously that's fixed to a quick change tool post tool holder, so that's nice and easy to use. And then coming down to my actual tools, I got a good rack of tools actually, all the most common ones that I use, so you know, whatever I'm using. And I've been they're all on this this 3D printed rack, and that's from a company called SDM Design. and they've been really useful actually. Really good, a really good sort of tool rack. So I've got all them on there, and obviously at the end here I've got my knurling tool and also my tool post drilling jig down there. A few, you know, cutting oils and stuff like that. Some more chuck keys that I use for my 4-jaw independent, nice long chuck key, and little short ones so I can get in from both sides when I'm setting up. So yeah, there we go with that. And then coming around here, just more storage, nothing really very exciting up there. I've got my carbide bits, and you know, the usual odds and sods that you need for whatever you're doing. Got the old Bible down there. No machine shop should be without the Bible. Praise the Lord. And then I've got a drawer full of me milling cutters. You know, various milling cutters I've got. So you know, depending on what I'm trying to do. Another drawer full of odds and sods, telescopic gauges and stuff that I use. And let me just pull that back before I lose it. My little knockout tool for, you know, knocking out the whatever's in the tail stock. And then what we've got here, yeah, these boxes, well, I've got my reamers. I keep all my sort of reamers together in these plastic sleeves where I can, and I also try and keep the actual reaming size drill with the reamers, so I don't have to go sort of, you know, hunting around the workshop trying to find the right size drill, etc. So you know, I buy the right size drill and keep it with it. And well, it's just more storage, more tooling, etc. Some, you know, milling clamps, more milling clamps, blah de blah de blah. So then, yeah, coming up here, little mallet, which I obviously use for setting up on the mill. A few engineer's clamps there, and then coming down to this little cupboard, I've got my my rotary table, and I mean that's got a Myford thread plate on there, so I can transfer the chucks. You know, if I turn something on the lathe, I can transfer that chuck, screw it onto that thread, and it's I know I've remained that you keep that concentricity that you're trying to achieve. There's also a little well, a sort of what would you call it, a little plate that I've made, which is full of M6 tapped holes, so if I need to clamp something down, you know, I can use that. Got a little angle plate here, which has been useful on the mill for a couple of jobs that I've used. I'll just move that out of the way. Then down here I've got my my dividing head, again used on the mill. Now this was this is a, you know, it's a Chinese copy of the Brown and Sharp version, and actually it's been, I mean, it's been okay, it's been good. I've had haven't had any problems with it. The only thing I had when I bought it, it came with a chuck which had a I think it was Boxford thread, something like that. So I mean, it was a bit of a, I used it a few times, but it started to become sort of a bit of a pain in the arse to keep shifting anything I was making into a different chuck. So what I did, I took the whole thing apart actually, and I got the centre spindle out, and I've actually turned my own turned a Myford thread on there. So now, you know, if something comes out the lathe, it can now go straight onto the dividing head, as you can see. So everything's sort of everything conforms to my sort of system. I mean, it's the same on the mill. You've got a Myford thread up there. Not that I ever put chucks in there or anything, but nice to keep everything kind of you know, in the same sort of thing. Anyway, talking about the mill, here's the mill. This is my little it's a Door Westbury Mark 1 mill. Again, I've had this for, well, I don't know, I can't remember how many years now. Not that many, probably about 4. You sort of lose track with COVID and all that, don't you? So, but yeah, it's been a good mill. I've had to make a few changes. I mean, the actual the slots that came in the bed, they weren't really compatible with anything I was trying to fit. So I've got this nice well, it's like about 20 mil thick aluminium plate, which is permanently bolted onto there. And if you notice all the holes, they're all like well, like say my my dividing head. I've got a little keyway slot there, so I've got a piece of steel. It's probably in there somewhere. Oops. So there it is. So that drop in there, and then I just you know, bring the dividing head on. All the holes are lined up, so I know it's all sort of squared up. I mean, you still run the clock over it, but it's all pretty good. Same with like the vise. That's actually got a dowel pin down there. So when I put the vise on the table, I locate that, and then I just move it across until it hits that little pin there as well. Obviously, then I can put the bolts in, just snug it up. I run a clock along there, and it's well, usually it's you know, it's bang on. So yeah, I like that little idea for everything that I can bolt on there. So yeah, that's about the mill anyway. Really, it's well, it's NASA approved, as you can see there, which NASA approved, of course. Anyway, enough of me waffling. So back to where I am. Well, I start at the top. I got a fan up there for when it's when it gets a bit warm in here in the summer. So and then I've just got some more tool racks. I've got my dividing head plates up there, some chucks and slitting saw, arbor. Again, just more tools, shell mill, end mills up to like 1 inch, and a rounding over mill. And well, I've got this little DRO thing, which is I mean, it works quite well. The batteries might be getting a little bit low actually. Yeah, they look like it, don't they? Oh, it's all locked up. Anyway, you get the idea. So I've got a little DRO there, and I've also got this that I've made for the quill depth, which is again, I think the batteries are probably going a bit. Oh no, it's okay. So yeah, there's the mill. So moving over, what have I missed? I bet I've missed something. Now I knew I'd missed some bits out, so this is my little drawer, which has got all my kind of parallels in and my spanners, you know, for the milling machine. And also over here, let me just see if I can set the camera up. Just one moment, one memento. And down here I've got some more storage, bits and bobs, metal offcuts and stuff like that that are useful, but you know, I just keep them until I need them again, because you never know. Down here is my this is like it's got some padding on the back of there, and some you know, that's whatever you call it, sound insulation, because down there of course is my noisy Airmaster Tiger air compressor, and that's all piped up, you know, all around the shop. Just get that back in there. It's a bloody noisy thing when it's running, so it's good to have a little bit of sound deadening on that. But obviously then that's piped up all around the shop. The air, so I've got my airline down here for, you know, general cleaning up. But of course then I've got my little what do you call it, air manifold, which I use to, you know, to run my steam engines off. These are all variable sort of outputs. So yeah, I'd forgotten that bit, so I've just added that in. That's a little project I'm working on at the minute, which will be a little miniature lathe, which is run off a wigwag engine. Over here I've got my little set of gauge blocks. Again, these were just how do I do that? Just a Chinese set of gauge blocks, but they're actually bang on. I've checked them all with my mic, and they're all pretty good. So then I've got some of my marking out calipers and stuff like that. Some smaller end mills, small files, bits and bobs, some V blocks, you know, all the sort of stuff you need for clamping. And then I've got my little collet holder. This again was made by SDM Design. Pretty useful actually. And then up there I've just, you know, got my hammer and stuff and a couple of spare flywheels. So then, yeah, this next piece, actually, this is my sort of, this is my main bench where I sort of do all my working, all my construction, etc. So everything, I try and keep everything sort of, you know, everything I'm going to use throughout the day, you know, it's all sort of here. So I've got all my sort of taps there, all my marking out stuff. I've got my surface table and my height gauge, all the little, these little Allen screw things. I mean, I'm going to have to be careful of the light here because it'll start flashing. Obviously I've got my Allen keys over there which I use, but these are really useful, just like a little screwdriver version. And yeah, all me taps, again, I sort of, you know, I keep the drill with the correct size tap, so I can just choose, you know, if I want to do M3, I know I've got to drill it with that one and tap it with that one. And again, much like the dies on the other side, I put a load of these little tiny tap wrenches, so I can keep them sort of preloaded with, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. Ready, like that one. My squares, and then some of my marking out equipment, obviously good old die chem, you couldn't mark out without die chem. Got some parallels, stuff like that, some little V-grooved plates. I got the, well, 1, 2, 3 blocks, which everyone will be familiar with, but these are actually 20, 40, 80 blocks in metric, of course. Very useful, them, as I'm sure you all know. My usual Loctite, super glue, that sort of thing. Angle plate for marking out, calculator, which you always need. My little box of stuff, which is always, like, you know, part of the build that I'm doing at the time. There's always a box of fixings and screws and stuff I've made. So yeah, go back up here. Here's my micrometers, again, nice and easy. Keep it all out because I use it regular. Just more junk really up there, not really very interesting. Little fixings that I use for pressing bearings in and stuff. A load of what do you call these? The gauges, gauge pins. That's the word I was looking for. I mean, these are actually homemade, so they don't go up in like sort of fractions of a millimetre or anything like that. They're just fixed sizes, but I know I can get, you know, I use them to sort of get the fit that I'm after. This is my little little hammer, which I use for when I'm doing my dot punching. There's some of my little punches there, scribers and stuff. That's the little engine that I've started, little cylinder that I've built. Probably going to be maybe a little beam engine or something. I don't know, I haven't decided yet. I just built it, and we'll see what comes out. And then onto my let's move that onto my surface table, which is actually, it's just a granite chopping board, really, about 1 inch thick. And well, it's I'm not going to be able to prove that to you, but I mean, it's very flat, actually. I haven't had any problems with it anyway, so yeah, it's been good. And then my just take the plastic cover off. My little marking out gauge. This was from Machine DRO, is it? I think, yeah. I mean, that's proved to be super. I used to have a smaller marking out gauge, you know, with a vernier scale on it, and I just struggled like mad. So especially with the way my eyes are going these days. So yeah, I mean, that's a really nice sort of marking out gauge. And then, of course, I've got my digital vernier calipers, whatever you want to call them. I use those all the time. I use those for marking out as well. People keep telling me I shouldn't, but I do. And it's quite a nice warm day today. It's about, what's that, not 18, 16, 17, 18 degrees, something like that. There's my battery charger. So yeah, that's basically that end of my shed. I'm sure I've missed a load out. Yeah, there's more drawers down there. Oh yeah, my welders. I've got a 160 amp welder down there, stick welder, and I've also got a little inverter 80 amp welder down there, which is useful. My good old vacuum, Henry the vacuum. Henry's pipes. It runs up, and then I've got this this pipe which kind of runs you know, all the way down, and I've got sort of a couple of outlets. It used to run all the way around, but I kind of, he got in the way, so I changed that. But it's really useful, so I can just I can unplug that pipe, put a stopper in it, and then you know, plug it in wherever I need, and I can obviously get then right down to the far end of the shed as well. So well, let's go there now. So this is my little, you know, obviously it gets cold in the winter, so I've got this little wood burner, and it's called a oh, what was it called? I've forgotten the name of it now. But yeah, a little wood burner. I bought this about 3 years ago. I've used it a hell of a lot actually. It's showing its age, going a little bit rusty, but it's not on at the minute. Obviously, it's primed, ready to go. I'll show you a picture of it running though, and there it is running. Look, nice and toasty. But yeah, it's been a good little heater. It just runs up through the chimney there, and then outside up to the up out there. It is quite a great little. It gets really hot actually. It's really quite good. Anyway, moving now down towards the well, this is kind of my woodworking end of the shed, and it's usually in quite a mess actually. I've had to have a good tidy up to get it the way it is at the moment. I've got my tools there for me fire, you know. I've made all these nice and easy to sort of load a bit of wood up with the tools, and then me ash scraper, which I drag all the ash out and put it in a bucket at the bottom. So okay, again, it's you know, storage heaven, isn't it? I mean, there's everything, isn't there? This is, like I say, mostly it's mostly me wood screws and stuff like that. You know, like I say, it's woodworking. Obviously I do other work around the place, so you know, most people have to have these little tools, don't they? Little press there. It's quite useful for pushing bearings in and stuff like that. Again, more storage, and there's more storage up there as well. It's like where I keep my tripods and God knows what else. A little polishing wheel and wire wheel for you know, doing restorations, cleaning stuff up. Then I've got a little 8-inch sander. It used to have the top thing on. That, well, stopped working apparently, and the guy was chucking it out, so I said I'll have it, and I just got rid of that, and it's a great little sander actually. I've got my little whiteboard there for if I want to do any sketches, ideas and stuff like that. To be fair, most of the time I just do it on paper, so I don't really use it very much. Over here, more storage, and the like I say, I keep all my screws neat in that box there for their sizes, but of course on a job you always pull them out and they end up in a bucket. So that's my bucket of screws, you know, which inevitably I drag out when I need something. Now I've got this little Clark bandsaw. It's flashing again, isn't it? That's really handy actually. I use this. Let me see if I can just put the camera down. So I use this extra table, just got a bolt under there. It gives me a little bit more space, and then of course I can drag the bandsaw out, because inevitably you always need a bit more space, you know, as you're cutting and stuff like that. So that's pretty handy. So moving on, just more storage down here. That's my wood store for my fire, obviously, and then well, just up there I've got my call clock. Then I've got another pencil sharpener, another little sander. You've got the 1-inch belt, which is really quite useful again. That's also got you know, a wheel, 5-inch I think it is on the side, but you know, having that there, I don't tend to use that much. And my grinder, which has got a green wheel on for tidying up carbide. Then my little, well, my shelf of me prototypes. So I mean, all my little engines start off as a wooden design, just to get a feel for it. You know, because obviously, you know, the woodworking, there's a new project I'm just I've sort of started looking at actually, and this sort of tooling range, be like a little bandsaw, which will be powered by one of the wigwags. So you might see that in the future. So just my woodworking tools, the old planes and, you know, all the usual stuff. Another sander, this time a nice 4-inch belt sander, is it? 4.5, I'm not really sure. Again, that's got the side wheel on there, but again, I don't really use it. But yeah, that's a great sander actually. And then I've got another little pillar drill press there. And well, up behind that I keep all my little oil cans and stuff, which I collect, oil jugs and oil cans. I do like those little things, you know, the little Wesco ones. So yeah, just one of the crazy things I collect. And then sort of in the corner of this, I've got a, oh, what do you call it? Scroll saw, that's it. And this is a beautiful old thing. It's actually, well, it was, get down there, Canada, made in Canada. Beaver Power Tools. And it's a lovely, I mean, it's all cast iron, and it's kind of got this, I don't know, it's got this kind of like, is it Art Deco or whatever you call it, sort of style to it. And I really loved it actually. Unfortunately, the motor's knackered, so I've had it running, but it ran slow and then it started to smoke, you know, the way things do. So I need to buy some new smoke and put that back in the motor. Or I might just buy a new motor actually. There's my welding mask over there. I've got another one of those down there on the end of the bench. And then what we got down here, it's just more storage, more junk, blah blah blah, all the usual stuff, my saws, stuff to tidy up, my dustbin, my seat, creaky floor. And then coming around here, we're nearly back to the bandsaw. Well, I used to be into sort of electronics and stuff. So I've got a load of Arduino bits and bobs that I bought, all in that box there somewhere, I think. But I wasn't very successful at that, so I didn't really do much more of that. So I mean, it's like my soldering station, junk storage. So I've got my old pressure cooker, steam boiler there, which it's got a little whistle on it now as well. I have to get that sorted, make a video of that one day. But it's got my little CNC router, which you might have seen my video on. I haven't really used that much, to be honest, since having it. I used it a few times. Got a couple of power supplies, 12 volt, and then a variable power supply there. And then, well, this is one of my, well, this is the main camera I use for making me videos. And oops, how's that got stuck? Hold on a minute. Just going to pull it off. So this is one of the, now I've got this little bracket thing, which I think originally was like on a monitor stand sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty useful. I can move that sort of around the workshop, whatever I'm doing. Not making a very good job of this with one hand, but still. There you go. So I can, yeah, like I say, I can fix that to sort of any point around the workshop. I've also got like, I also use this. This is probably going to flash like crazy actually because of the LED lights. But I've got another little sort of clamping jig that I use there. And I use this extruded aluminium, which I've got that set up sort of, well, all around the workshop really, over the lathe, you know, in odd places. So I can just kind of set that up with the camera and reposition it wherever I want. Like I say, with the same as this, but just by using that thing there. So that's kind of how I do my YouTube filming. Anyway, we're back to the bandsaw, so I guess that must be about the full tour. Let me have a think. Oh yeah, down there I've got my wood table saw for wood cutting and a few other bits and bobs. And I keep my woodworking tools sort of behind that flap as well. You know, the hand tools and stuff like that. So anyway, I think that's about it really. So that's kind of the tour of my shed. I've just remembered something that I've forgotten to show you. Up here, we've got my, obviously again to try and save space, this folds down and it's like, it's a pin board that I can use to put my drawings on and stuff like that. That's the picture that I'm kind of basing my little lathe thing on over there. But yeah, again, like I say, space is a premium in my shed, so that can go fold back up. Again, difficult with one hand. So there you go. I mean, the shed itself is about, well, it's about 8 foot across, 2.4 metres or whatever that is. And the full length from sort of end to end is about 22 feet. Again, whatever that is in metres. So, but yeah, I'm glad you've stuck out this long to watch this video, because it has become a blooming long one. It's about 40 minutes long, I think. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.